Hot stuff coming through.
Hot Streak is an incredibly interesting new warrior weapon from heavy hitters. Released as a rare in a set where the token weapon is the infamous and respected Cintauri Saber, Hot Streak has quite a bit to measure up to. On my first pass, I admittedly brushed it off. However, after these last few weeks, I've got to admit, Hot Streak has me very intrigued. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. Today we're talking Hot Streak, the new warrior weapon, or one of the new warrior weapons out of heavy hitters, alongside Parry Blade. But Hot Streak is very interesting, been catching my attention on a couple of fronts because of its potential. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, when I first read it, I kind of brushed it off. And I believe the reason that I did that was I was like, well, they just won't block it. Okay. Now, where I admittedly didn't think of it is that's effectively the same as if, right, take yourself back to OG Kassai days, right? There were a lot of times that they didn't block your first Saber because they knew it was going to come in and there was going to be Blade Runner behind it and something like that. So from a certain point of view, leading with Hot Streak and not getting its thing puts you basically in the same situation. Now, again, I mentioned Hot Streak does have quite a bit to live up to. The Cintauri Saber is very, very, very good, right? So Hot Streak, once per turn for 1, attack for 2, and when this is defended by 1 or more attack action cards, it gets Go Again, as opposed to the time-honored Cintauri Saber that when basically everything the same happens, it's defended by an attack action, it gets +1 until end of turn. Okay, now, again, in a vacuum, Go Again is like 99 times out of 100, you'd be like, well, I would rather have Go Again on something than have it be +1, right? So, you know, I mean, Scar for a Scar obviously is the best of both worlds on that, right? But would you rather play a Wounded Blow, or would you rather play a 0-3 with Go Again? Ask Briar players, right? Ask your Runeblade players. They'll tell you what they want to play. And it makes sense. So again, in a vacuum, and again, that's how I think on my first pass, I was like, that's probably not as good as Cintauri Saber. Okay. But then I started really thinking about it, and sure, Go Again is very, very good. But again, you get yourself in that situation where it's not blocking, and then it all starts to come apart. Plus, you really need to think about it from a warrior perspective, right? Generally, when you set up your play line, you're mentally working off of a blue. And yes, Kassai has the reduction where things swing free. So now we're starting to come to where Hot Streak is kind of intriguing in of itself. And another thing I do want to point out about Hot Streak is read it. It says when this is defended by 1 or more attack action cards, so an instantaneous thing, Hot Streak's attacks get Go Again this turn. Attacks get Go Again this turn. So you have something like Twinning Blade, where again, if you're doing like a Kassai free swing turn, Twinning Blade, you can actually attack with Hot Streak again. Now, is that worth 1 card out of hand if it's only coming in for 2? Maybe, maybe not. But you've got hit and runs and stuff. But then again, hit and run gives Go Again. So you start to see how it is very, very interesting to have this conversation because it's very potentially awesome, a little tricky to use, but the upside's there, right? So what you really have to be asking yourself, what I've been asking myself is playing 1 Cintauri in Hot Streak better than trying to do 2 Cintauri Sabers? And I'll be honest, I think it's still up in the air as a general statement. I think with free swing Kassai, that Hot Streak's got its, I mean, obviously if you're doing blood on your hands, you want to do Cintauri Sabers, right? Because then you just chop all day long. But I think there's a very real argument for Hot Streak in that just being there switches up how they have to play. I mean, I know that this last couple weeks playing against Hot Streak, 9 times out of 10, I kind of just don't block Hot Streak. And that of itself carries value when you lead with it, right? That's pretty good. All right, now let's shift. Again, a lot of the conversations here have been around Kassai. Let's go ahead and shift focus to Dorinthea. Now, Dorinthea is not necessarily, aside from like a courage turn, courage blade hold. But aside from that, she's going to have to come up with the money to do this. But Hot Streak is very interesting from Dorinthea's standpoint, getting the second swing, to what I already mentioned is if they do block it with that, then it gets go again for the turn. But you get a second swing with it if they don't block it, right? So that's very interesting as well into Dorinthea. I've also seen Hot Streak being played quite a bit with Olympia, kind of doing the when most of the Olympias I've seen out there are actually running Decimator Great Axe for the moment, but the two swing ones out there I've seen have been running Cintauri and Hot Streak, which basically backs that up because you can wager on your Hot Streak and suck stuff out. Not a bad play. So I have not figured this card out yet, but it's very interesting to me in terms of it's a very cool card. Let's just put it that way. Very cool card in terms of the potential play lines it opens up. It works well with Kassai. It works well with Dorinthea in obviously a Dorinthea Sabers build. It's functional for the other heroes. I should say not Boltyn. Boltyn's probably not playing this. I mean, he could, actually. I mean, I think you really want, for Sabers Boltyn, I think you really want the Cintauri Sabers because it keeps stacking and you're trying to do it. But it's an option. It's interesting. You could do 1-1. Save yourself some cards in Soul. Sure. Why not? So for you warriors out there, have you been playing around with Hot Streak? To be clear here, I've actually been talking, Blitz and CC, like standard constructed type stuff. In Commoner, I think Hot Streak is absolutely insane with OG Kassai getting the second swing free because then you can still work off level blue, right? And still do things. Potentially follow up with something else. Very, very cool option. Now, you're not going to be able to swing a second time with it on OG Kassai, right? But it frees up a lot of things with having go again and threatening something on the backside. That is very, very interesting. I think you probably do play this in Commoner. I think you lead with this and then follow up with Cintauri, again, being very backswing focused. So I think that one writes itself on Commoner. But as far as constructed, some very interesting play lines here. So I'm very curious for those of who've been playing around with this, who've been experimenting it. What do you think? What results have you yielded? Let me know below. Let's get the conversation started. Hopefully I can learn a thing or two and we can all share and make ourselves better. So anyway, thanks folks for joining. This card has potential to have potential, I think is the right statement. Very interesting card. So anyway, thanks for joining. Nothing else, folks. Go Commando.